So people with non-tech background, right? So, but some odd jobs, for example, they're not happy with being cashier. They're not happy with being a waiter or Uber driver, DoorDash or whatever, where they work for 7-Eleven from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. They're not happy with the money they make and they want to get into IT. What they do, they ask for advice. And who you ask advice is very important. Here's why. At my first job in the US, I was a dishwasher in a cafe, and the same guy had a grocery store. And he said, go work in the grocery store as well. So I did work for the grocery store as well. So, and then it was 2008. In 2011, I started learning coding, the same grocery store, because I used to work there. So I want to do business with them. So I went there, I was buying some stuff. And then my manager was like, oh, what's going on with your life? I was like, I'm learning coding. He said, it's not that easy, you cannot do it. So it was like pretty discouraging message that I got. It's only one example. And I've heard many others told me that I could not get into IT because I don't have computer science background. Plus I have broken English, whatever the reason, right? So if I did listen to them, today probably I'll be still delivering package or doing some other stuff and having a difficult life. But I didn't listen to them. I just gave a shot. So one of the problem with the thing is people generally, they ask advice from their colleagues and their friends. And the second possibility is people ask advice from someone they respect. I'm going to talk about this two cases now. If you ask advice from your colleague, let's say you work for 7-Eleven, you go to 7-Eleven store and you talk to the manager, hey, I'm learning Java. You think I'm going to be able to get a job? What the guy's going to say? Hey, I have a master's degree from India. I'm doing a cashier here. You think you can do it? So if you're Uber driver or working in 7-Eleven, it's not, we're looking down at these people. They just don't have that experience to give you example, to give you advice. You don't go to butcher to say, since you're cutting meat, can you do the surgery? It's two different things. You need to go to people who have been there, done that. Just make sure. Don't go to people, don't ask advice from people. For example, you don't want to go to your colleagues in 7-Eleven or construction to say, should I do this or not? They have no idea. They have no capability to give you good advice. That is one thing. So people got it. I think this is pretty self-explanatory. Sometimes people ask advice because they're a good friend, but good friend need to have experience to give you that advice. Even the friend is good, you may not able to get the good advice from your good friend. Good friend is not equal to good advice. The second thing that I want to talk about is sometimes people go to people that they respect. There's an uncle that you respect, there's aunties that you respect, right? But the problem is, again, do they have the competency in that particular field? They can't talk about it. Even the doctor, right? If the doctor is a brain surgeon, they focus on brain. If you ask them kidneys, they might have some idea, but they're going to say, go to specialist, right? So advice should be taken from the people who have experience, been there, done that. Two different things. Number 3, for those people who is coming from non-traditional background. So what is traditional background when you get into IT? Traditional background is you go to college, you go to Virginia Tech, you go to MIT, you study computer science program, you graduate in 4 years, you have $100,000 student loan, you start as an intern, then slowly you climb your life up to there. And it took you, I would say, the college 4 years, another 4 years, you have a real hands-on experience. It took you what? Like 8 to 10 years to make 120 grand salary. And then you go into that person to say, since you have IT experience, I want to ask you, should I take the boot camp? Should I learn on myself? Will I able to get an IT job? So this, right? Sometimes you end up with the good people. Sometimes people will be pretty mad at you because you're telling the person, like this guy spent $100,000, 4 years of his time and started with $6,000 salary like a long time ago. Now you're asking this guy, can I study coding for 12 weeks, 6 months, 7 months, 1 year, and make the salary you make? It's kind of insulting to them as well. So unless they have self-awareness and unless they know what's going on in the market, imagine that somebody invested $100,000 to buy a home. At the same home, the next year he bought it for $10,000. The guy who bought the same home for $100,000 is going to be pretty mad. So that's the psychology, some of those people. So when you, as someone trying to break into IT, asking advice from IT professionals from traditional background, I'm not saying everybody will give you bad advice. Everybody's going to tell you it's not possible. Just have an idea when they say this is not possible. It could be from you're telling them, you paid $100,000 for this house, but I'm going to buy the same house for $10,000. It is going to hurt them. So that's another thing that you want to avoid. So who to ask advice? So for example, I'm a businessman and relatively small business. If I go to Jeff Bezos, who is the richest person in the world and probably the most powerful company in the world, if I go to Jeff Bezos today to say, give me business advice, his advice is going to be so overwhelming because I'm not going to be able to apply the strategies he's telling me in my business because it's just size is totally different. Now, if you go to PhD in computer science to say you want to get into intern job, things like that, it may not directly applicable. So who do you ask? If you are trying to become self-learning to get into IT, then find someone who self-studied for 1 or 2 years, found a job, and be successful. And that person, if they're not jealous, they can give you good advice. The second part is somebody graduated from boot camp and applied for a job, found a job. Ask that person because that person is going to be able to give you relatively comparable experience. So asking for advice is important. Who are you asking from is very important. And the context is very important too. So if you listen to the wrong people, you may just end up in the job that you don't like for the rest of your life. So that's my advice for you. And I've been there, done that. Have a good day.